Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. This is a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casaz, joined by Chris Anderson. And Chris, I have my earpiece too. Um, Breaking news here. A question from you
Yes.
leaked off the mailbag today. And I just want to get out in front of this right now. I'm still under the weather, severe COVID fog. Um, and you're about to point something out to everybody that you pointed out to me, and I'm so mad at myself that I did not get when I read this. But this is actually a pretty good way to start and a pretty good way to, I would say, review some news, but give it a just a bit of a side eye.
Mm.
Not fresh eyes on it, but we're gonna side eye this one here because now we have questions where we have answers, right?
Yeah, this is the glory of us being in charge of this Q&A pod. We can kind of jump to the front of the line in the mailbag here. This one has not been upvoted 25 times, but
Mm-hmm.
it's mine. It's been upvoted once. I get I have a controlling share of these votes here, and my 51% votes, this is going first.
Mm.
Um, Mike, you
Yes.
wrote the story yesterday with the details of the after your FOIAs, with a return, by the way, on the FOIAs of the contracts for the mutual cancellation of the West Virginia and Alabama series, plus the new series that West Virginia inked to replace them, both of them, Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina. As I was reading your story, I noticed that you specifically pointed out that the mutual cancellation agreement was drafted on August 8th and signed on August 26th. My first thought in there was, hey, wait, they didn't announce the 9 game thing until I think you told me August 21st. But of course, they're already setting up contingencies, all that stuff. So I just thought those dates were interesting. And then I thought, boy, well, what were the dates on those contracts for Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina? Did they already have those lined up before the actual signatures on the 26th? Mike, my question to you, and you have the answers. What are the dates on those contracts for Southern Miss? Well, let's start with Southern Miss because this is a little less um, conspicuous, I guess.
Mm.
Word.
Mm. I would just let's on the teases for a minute. Like, what's a date that would make you go, huh? That's curious. Because August 8, August 21, and August 2026, well, you could say like, well, maybe there's some advance warning. Maybe they knew a little bit. But like, is there a date in there that would make you say something's fishy? Like if I told you that West Virginia and Southern Miss had a contract on July 18th.
Trust me, there was the one that you said, and I guess we can go ahead and skip to it because we can't. I don't know how we can beat around the bush on this one, but you told me the date on Coastal,
Yeah.
and I went, wait, hold up. And what was that date, Mike?
Coastal Carolina
Yeah.
drafted July 23rd, signed by the new chancellor at Coastal Carolina July 28th, signed by Rem Baker August 26th.
Okay. So the August 26th, that makes sense. That's when they're signing. Same day they signed the Alabama one. You
Hmm.
you line those ducks in a row. That first day, July 23rd, when it was drafted, I said, hold up. I think I might have made that face to you. When was President Benson, formerly of Coastal Carolina, officially announced as president of West Virginia?
Like when did he show up to the office for the first day?
Yeah.
July, I believe 15, because they gave Gordon Gee an extension from July 1st to 14th. So 15th was a Monday, I believe, right?
So 1 week later, drafted up, ready to go.
Expeditious. So here's your dates on this. We mentioned the 21st of August, the 26th of August. Your Southern Miss series, the contract is drafted on July 18th,
Oh, so
signed by
that was
Rem
even
Baker.
earlier. Wow.
Signed by Rem Baker on 26, signed by the president at Southern Miss, excuse me, the vice president of finance and administration on July 28th. So, listen, if here's the good news here. If they're trying to raise money, Rem Baker should be in an illicit gambling ring right now because he knows all this stuff. He knows the outcomes before the games, weeks before him, presumably because he's in a
Yeah.
time machine and he's able to see into the future and anticipate all these just remarkable changes. But um, I would assume here that this is why it's mutual.
Yeah.
Um, to just to not to run over the dead horse here. The reason that West Virginia just kind of rolled their eyes when Neil Brown would bring up the Alabama series last year, it wasn't that they disagreed. It was just you stop talking about this, and there wasn't a lot of formative conversation at that time about it. But as you got closer to this season and just the way that the college schedules were changing and the strength of schedule, which again that just changed too with the 9 games in the SEC, people knew that was coming. They anticipated the SEC's 9 game was coming, so you're going to start changing your schedule. So West Virginia did, have those conversations with other schools, and they have conversations with people a lot about, are you in? Should we be looking around? Might you buy us out? You have to make sure that other people don't come in and swing a wrecking ball at your schedule too. But the reason that they were just kind of rolled their eyes last year is, hey, stop talking about this. We'll get around to it if you can. And they did. So the reason this is mutual, and for people saying, listen, Alabama, you didn't have to go. Can you schedule it mutually in the future? Could you have had a 2036, 2037 series, whatever? Um, they couldn't, they didn't, they wouldn't. They both wanted out of it. That's why it's a mutual agreement there. And West Virginia's dates on this indicate that sure, it would have been something that they could have really held up against to try to get some money out of it, but they wanted out of this too. It's not like it was just Alabama saying, "Hey, we got to go to 9 games." I'm sure that West Virginia didn't kick and scream about that because they want to have their schedule look a certain way, and Alabama as part of it was not it. You can agree with that, you can disagree with that, but you at least have to acknowledge that West Virginia has a model and that the way that Alabama was in, especially next season, just didn't fit for them. So 27, different story. But if you're going to get out of one, Alabama's not going to play a 1 game schedule against West Virginia and come to Morgantown and not get a return game. So then it becomes mutual.
Um, Follow-up question for you, and maybe this is just speculation for one or both of us. You noted, I think they were drafted in the 18th and 23rd, and the other teams, Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina, you said they signed like in July, right? Like, I mean, Bren Baker didn't sign for West Virginia until August 26th, like the same day he signed to Alabama series. So it was kind of like, all right, Alabama cancellation is final, so now I can immediately sign these two. Do you think that Ren Baker had like 7 of those with 5 other schools sitting on his desk, and he's like, all right, here's our choices, boys? Maybe even calls in Rich Rodriguez, like, hey, and President Benson, there's a meeting. Hey, I got Southern Miss for 1.2 mil. So, so and so for 1.1, or the other way around, 1.1, and Coastal for 1.2, and I got Marshall over here for 800 grand and somebody else. And is that how it works? You think like they have it? Hey guys, we're going to have an opening in 2026 and 2027. Send me your best proposal and sign it. I'll let you know on August 26th.
No, it's not how it works, Chris. And if I could do a screen share, I would show you. In the middle of the contract at page 1, there is a small circle which indicates to me it was on a dartboard, and they're just throwing darts, and whatever one they land on is how they get the schedule. That is
There you
clearly
go.
how you schedule in the Power Four. I think that's an interesting theory. And my question here: how do they land on Southern Miss? There's just no way you. Hey, Rich, we got to get a game in 27. Hey, call Charles Huff. I just don't. I don't think that's it. Where hey, we should. I like that Marshall coach. Let's get him. Well, sir, he's at Southern Miss now. Oh, well, let's get him. I just don't think that's how that goes. I wonder how they got there. It could have been something where there were a couple of schools maybe that fell through beforehand. I just don't think it's one of those. I don't think it's like applying to colleges where you apply to 7 and you sign with one of them. I think that you're probably doing some sort of like good faith talks with schools, but before you get into that draft up a contract stage, I think you're being honest, like, listen, we're not interested, but thank you. Or hey, we have the idea what a schedule would look like if your choice C, if A and B don't work out, we'll come back to you. I don't know what letter of the alphabet Southern Miss is. I'm gonna guess it's probably, closer to the bottom half than the top half. But let's just say that they're option O, right? There's a lot of layers that go through to get there. I just wonder like if that's part of the delay. But Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina aren't sending that contract over to West Virginia unless they think it's getting signed. Especially Coastal, who's got to make Delaware disappear too. Don't forget that one.
Yeah. And I liked your theory. I guess it was that, hey, that's why they got a little bit more. It's like, hey, we got to pay off and get out of this,
Mhm.
Delaware series that we
Yep.
already got. So give us extra 100 grand. Makes sense. All right, Mike, do we switch gears now and go to the questions of, the fans that actually asked the questions, the reason we're supposed to be doing this podcast?
Yeah, we're not going to do favorites here. We're just going to go no strings. You pick the questions. We'll do the answers. We'll roll from there.
Yep. And we are going with the most upvoted questions in order. Again, you guys post Mike posts a thread, you guys ask the questions, you guys also upvote the questions that you like the most. Those are the ones most likely to be on the podcast. I am going today. I think I have it in exact order of the most upvoted question on down. Some of the ones with fewer upvotes are the ones, and sometimes those are just the ones that come in later and they don't have time to get the upvotes. We will answer a couple of those in 3-minute videos and the rest in a written mailbag. We had
Yeah.
a ton of questions. Um, the top voted one, WVU Mountie 2001, convinced me the offensive line is going to be okay against Power Four competition. Do it, Mike.
All right, really easy. Okay isn't that good. Sorry. Like if
Set the
you're
bar
okay,
low. Let's
I
go.
think if you're okay, that's not too high of a bar to clear. I think they have enough players to do that. I think that you could look at your first game and say, "Ooh, boy, that didn't really get separated until some attrition and some depth and some superiority in that and those aspects took over for West Virginia." And that's not going to be the case. Perhaps as soon as Saturday against Ohio. But remember too, that's so new for all of them. They made a lot of the mistakes you would think as far as their pre-snap stuff and their post-snap stuff when it comes to penalties. That that's going to happen. I don't think they're too far from okay. Now, if the question is, convince me that they're going to be good enough to be an impact in the Big 12, that's harder. Just because that's further down the road, and based on what the question is presuming, how much of what you saw Saturday is we're going to see going forward? You hope not, because while that was okay, okay is not going to get it done. And then just I think if you're going to see teams probably play West Virginia's pass game a little bit different and make Nico hold the ball longer, go to his third read or something like that, and more importantly, make the pass rush work against the pass protection. Can the pass protection hold up? We'll see. Those are adjustments the defenses are going to have to make, and Pitt will be well armed to do that for sure. I think that just reps over time is going to help, and I think that they gave all those guys. I think the starting five played 61 snaps together. Livingston came out for one. But Carson Lee went in, by the way, too, and it wasn't Isosa or Robbie Martin. But those guys played the full time together. They didn't swap out in the middle of the game or like anything like that. They didn't swap out between series and just try different combinations. They have their five, Chris. And I think they're going to go forward until it's clear that those aren't the five. But more importantly, that number six is better than number five. Number seven is better than number five. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but it's pretty clear to me they have their five, and it's easier to get to where you want to go if you have that idea right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, and I also think that even with that five, and again, it seems like they feel comfortable with that five. And honestly, despite all the talk of having a bunch of dudes and all these oars on the depth chart, there seems to be some pretty clear delineation between first and second string in several positions. And I agree with you. I think they seem comfortable with their five at offensive line. The thing that concerns me is a couple of those holds, a couple of those pre-snap penalties. Like, it not concerns me in the fact that, oh my God, the team's going to fall apart. But it would concern me if I was one of those guys committing those penalties, because Rich Rodriguez seems to hate those things. And assuming he's different than, say, the previous staff, there may be some more changes there. Because I don't, also not just a difference in staff philosophy, but these guys aren't like entrenched third year starters in this program that have been with the staff forever. It was just like, all right, this is our first opportunity to see you in a game, and now you've made multiple false starts and hold.
Mhm.
That's bad. Like, that could change you from entrenched to not so entrenched, untrenched, detrenched, if you will, pretty quickly. So I think I'm with you. One, okay is a pretty low bar. And I think an okay offensive line is enough to make this a pretty good offense.
Mhm.
Again, if you want to be a good offense or a great offense, the offensive line's got to be better too. But I think the scheme and the skill positions around it can take an okay line and make a pretty good offense. I also think Rich Rodriguez eventually, if some of these issues still continue with the guys that are part of this first five, I don't think he'll hesitate to swap to somebody else eventually. Like, give him another week, and then it's like, all right, nope, you did it again, you're out, you're gone. So I think he'll try to find the right combination to make it work. And I'm like you, I noted that Carson Lee, like, oh hey, there he went in. He's listed as a backup guard, but he was the first one in when they needed somebody at center real quick for Livingston. And then later when he went in, It was a guard, right? Like he went when he came in with the second string, he came in as a guard and not the backup center. So
Yep.
I don't know if that makes him like the number 6 lineman, but maybe he's the number 1 interior reserve, I guess we can call it. So, um, ready for the next one?
Yeah, I thought, man, I'm looking at the PFF snaps, and it has him playing all 19 snaps at center. And I just don't think that's true.
Oh, really? Well, we got to check those because some of that stuff is just
Yeah, they've made changes since yesterday for sure too at some of these snap counts, and I'll have to go back and double check. I'm just looking at this now. Okay, yeah, interesting.
um. Let me see. Snaps by position detailed. Yeah, they got him at all 19 at center. I could have swore he played some guard because I thought Isosa was in there. Robbie Martin was in there for sure. All right.
Go ahead.
We'll jump back and check it. And next question, Quirky Quokka, a Ear Sports tailgate attendee. We'll do his bonus question first. Has anybody ever seen Mike and Nice Feet in the same rim? That was a good conspiracy theory about why you didn't come. Everybody was on the search for Nice Feet, and Mike didn't show up. Convenient.
The ruse, 5 years in the making.
Uh-huh. Um, Quirky's real question is, what's your hottest take after game one? Like get just boiling hot Stephen A. Smith type take, Mike. What do you got?
You got to get Jalen Henderson more snaps in place of
Ooh,
Nico Marchio.
okay.
It's
Oh,
piping hot because
I,
Marchio played darn
yeah.
near ideal.
I was gonna say, what did he complete like 90% of his passes every time like somebody else didn't fumble, they were scoring.
As many lost fumbles for him as incomplete passes.
Yeah,
That's not great by the defense or the offensive teammates there.
no.
But again, I just watched Henderson run that ball, and that's boy, it picked everybody up real fast in that second unit. And to get that juice out of that position, and here's why it's a hot take. Markio played great. It would appear that he has a sizable lead over number two. No problem. You don't take that off the field, and you're putting in like an unknown player here who may be a little bit one dimensional. How about less two dimensional than it appears Markio is? But I'm just infatuated with how Rodriguez is going to get some of the speed and talent that he has on the sideline, on the field, and that's where your big difference is. Because if you start gashing guys with that quarterback, which means juggling two quarterbacks, I like complications, Chris. That's why it's a hot take. Resist the easy button, hit the complicated square, and do something like this here. When we've seen what overthought, complicated football has done, you don't want to do that. The easy thing would be to keep Rodriguez and Archeo attached here at quarterback. The hot take is shake it up a little bit and put the wheels in and just turn the defense upside down. One possession, two possessions, see what happens.
Like, do I get to do the same thing about Sincere Bowers and Jaheim White? Is that too easy?
That's hot.
That is hot. I mean, I'm not ready to go that far. I am ready to say maybe he should get some more carries. I mean, and they leaned on Jaheim White, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, you lean on the things you know work, and Jaheim White works. I think Rich Rodriguez commented in the. I know he commented in the post game about how he wished that they could have kind of broke him for some bigger runs, and I couldn't really gauge whether that was a, him lamenting the running or lamenting the blocking. I took it as the latter, but I'm just keeping an eye on that just because, Bowers just immediately came in and just a big run and just looks fast. And it's a similar reason to why you're talking about Henderson. It just seems like those two, even together, just seemed explosive. Like White and Margio seemed like, hey, steady chunk gains, 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, reliable. And then there's just this temptation of Henderson or Bowers, like, ooh, oh, 26 yards. Ooh, he looks fast. Ooh, look at that arm. Like that kind of stuff. So I'm with you in a similar vein there. Crawdaddy 2655 How much of my 401k should I wager on the ridiculous line for the Ohio game?
All right, do not take my advice here because I actually saw the line yesterday and I told you this, and I thought because I'm totally goofed up in the head with my medicine right now that I thought that it said that West Virginia was a 3 point underdog, and I was like, whoa. So maybe don't take my betting advice here, but yeah, West Virginia being a 3 point favorite is even curious to me. 3 point underdog made it extremely curious. I do think that there you got to be cautious here, just because I think that Ohio got more out of the first game than West Virginia did, and they walked off the field more advanced from where they started than West Virginia did. Which is weird because West Virginia got a rolling and scored 45 points and allowed three and played great defense. West Virginia did a lot of damage against an FCS team in the second half. Ohio got rolling in that game and was, if not for one or two notable plays, a block punt touchdown, a really curious defensive holding, a 4th and 7 conversion by Rutgers with like a minute 50 left. That could be a very different game. They're coming home. I would be really careful with that game. See where it ends up. Three seems about acceptable to gamble on, but if it starts to grow, oh boy.
Yeah. So what do we still stick to the old adage that home field advantage is worth three?
You know, some do, some don't. Some even think it's less than that. It might be half of that. It might just be 2 points, but it certainly is a bump. So they're probably in between that 4, 4.5, which is that's where Vegas wants you betting, Chris.
Yeah. And all I'm thinking of is that Rutgers was a 15 and a half point favorite. So let's say that that means they're a 12 and a half, 13 point better team because the game was in Piscataway. And now West Virginia's only, so is Rutgers a 10 point better team than West Virginia?
Oh,
Like
it's the
if
Big Ten, Chris.
yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. You know, I don't like to promote gambling on the site, except that's kind of what we do a lot. But -3 seems low. We'll see.
You think it ends up at 4.5, 5?
I think it's going to end up going higher. Yeah, I think people are going to hammer it. Has it even moved yet? Let me look it up real quick.
It jumped to 4.5 pretty fast.
Oh, it's already up to 4.5.
No, it did initially, and I think it swung back a little bit, but I saw like when I was looking at the numbers after this morning when I realized I made my mistake, it did swing to about 4.5.
Yeah, I see it. I see three up to 4.5, back down to 3.5. Whew. Whew. Okay. Um, Next question. Rick H92 ear. Did we learn anything from the Robert Morris game, and did it change your mind on the season win-loss totals?
Latter, no, because I had them winning this in about that. I didn't think it'd be 42 points, but I thought it'd be a pretty lopsided game. Did I learn anything? Um, it makes me lean in different directions more than I had before. And the notable one for me is that their defense is just it's very fast and very aggressive. And honestly, if Rich Rodriguez, who started off as a defensive coach, had stayed a defensive coach, I think it would probably look a lot like what Zach Alley does.
Yeah, I like it. Nah, I don't think it. I don't know if it changed much about my thoughts either. This game, honestly, like as far as the defense goes, it reinforced where I was already leaning, which can be a dangerous thing. Because I've already mentioned it several times. As the season approached, I kind of added a win and a half to West Virginia's season total because I thought to myself, wait, this defense might actually be good. Like not just average, but it might be good. And they look pretty darn good against Robert Morris. Again, overmass opponent, all that. But they looked like they have some dudes on that team. They look like Zach Alley has some a plan in place, and they move fast and they were attacking the ball. And again, forced turnovers. I know it's just an FCS team, but those two forced fumbles were, as I've noted, the most forced fumbles for a West Virginia team in non-conference play. Well, the same amount in 2.5 quarters as they had over 3 years, the
Mhm.
previous 3 years. So that means something right there. WVU Oda, I'm going to leave this to you because I had no idea what was going on here. The review process. He says, I don't recall ever seeing a call being reviewed, confirmed as such, then re-reviewed, and then called overturned. We all know it was, I believe it was one of West Virginia's fumbles. We all knew it was a fumble, but they didn't call it in a game. They stopped the play, confirmed it was not a fumble, then decided to check it out again, and then overturned it to call it a fumble. Is this something you've seen, Mike? I don't.
No, and we didn't see it Saturday.
Oh,
So I watched the games on mute. Take a guess why. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I asked, and someone said, "Oh yeah, it was the sequence here. You're right, turnover." And I went back and I watched it, and I think that the play-by-play crew just got it wrong. You hear the officials say the call on the field is runner down, and then it just the replay was waiting to review it or not, I think. So when everybody is looking like, hey, review this, and they're doing the hand signal to the sideline or whatever, and the crowd is looking at the board saying, hey, fumble, the official is spotting the ball, getting ready to go because that's what you're supposed to do. And then the official says the call on the field is runner down. I forget the down and distance, 2nd and 3, whatever. And then we're all watching the reviews. Then the call comes down. Let's review this, and they do. I'm pretty sure that's what happened there. I understand the confusion because you did not have very good guidance from the play-by-play there. I think that they just missed the call on the field from the official, as stated. Wait, here comes the buzz. Now we're going to review it. I believe that's how that happened. To his question, it's never happened that way that I've seen, and I think the rules prohibit that. Like once you actually have a replay, it's not supposed to get reviewed again.
Got it. Mahoney says, this question's for Mike. No offense to Chris, but who's got better hair, Nico or Scotty? I take offense to that because I got a little volume on the front today. So I was kind of hoping that would get me in, but go ahead, Mike. It's your question, Nico
This
or
is
Scotty?
this is great. I mean, this is great. It's Nico. First of all, dark hair. Markio, I'm going to probably be partial to as well. And if I have this right, like his just is he bandanaing or like what do they call those like headband or whatever? Pretty good look. I think Fox pulled his hat off though, and he gets points for me because when he pulled his helmet off, it's just flowing. There's no headband, there's no bandana or anything. I think he's just au natural under the cap, which I give that credit to. But I'm a brown hair guy. I'm okay with that. And then just the shine, like Markio's done this before. Like you can tell he's whipped the hat off for cameras, for cheerleaders, for the interview, something like that before. I think that some preparation goes into this for him, and I reward him for his dedication to the craft.
To answer your question, yeah, it is an official WVU football Nike headband. So he is staying true to the brand, keeping the sponsors happy. And I believe, if what I was told is correct, he gave it away after the game, tossed it up to a fan in the post game as he was going along the sidelines. So pretty cool there.
Not just a fan, Chris, but why do you think that I voted for Nico's hair?
Put it on.
He
I know
did.
you're a shill. We've already seen your Frisco bowl or whatever, Frisco coffee, all that stuff anywhere.
Mhm.
So, um, how much more Robbie0210? How much more of the playbook will Rich open up this week? I guess let's start with how restricted was it, do you think?
I mean, if he called 8 plays, he probably called 2/3 of his playbook, though.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I think we're on the same page on this. Go ahead.
Just doesn't do a lot, which is not, that's the beauty of it. You rep the fundamentals, you rep the decisions, and you just let your physical talent color in the gaps. So that's fine, I think. Did he do a lot? No. Did he have to? No. The one thing that caught my attention was just hardly any vertical plays or vertical routes. They were quick, get the ball out, timing, 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 which is fine because that's something that you really want to, again, rep. So your footwork's, you're firing, you're going. That's again, rep the fundamentals, rep the decisions. That's what he did in the game. So a lot more, not really, because there's not a lot more left, but that's not a negative too. They were vanilla, but they're also almost purposely vanilla. The one thing is that if they do have 15 plays, let's say total, the variations of that make it 45, 60 plays because they can tag onto this, they can put a motion here, they can shift the formation, they can swap personnel. You can do one play 4 or 5 different ways.
Yep, I'm on the same boat. I was just saying, I don't know what the actual number is, but I'm with you. Like, hey, he runs 15 plays, but there's five different variations or different decisions off of every single play. So each one is you're reading this. Do you hand off? Do you keep? Do you throw? Like, do you throw there? Do you throw
Yeah.
there? And so it can look like four different plays, but it's really just one play with multiple decisions. So I'm I think maybe he kept a couple tricks in the bag that he's not going to do not until next week or maybe even the week after. Like you said, maybe a little bit more aggressive on the passes moving forward, but for the most part, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of the same plays, and you're just going to see different decisions off of them. Um, and honestly, like I just don't know how many tough decisions you have to make when you're so overmatched your opponent talent wise and physicality wise. You can just be like, yeah, well, we're just going to run this right here because we can, even though maybe that's not even the right read. I,
Mhm.
I think some of the times for sure against Robert Morris. J Dave WB. Mike, again, this goes to the broadcast question, which, other than the one guy trying to do his like Timu brand Gus Johnson impression,
Mhm.
um, did Rich Rod actually invent country roads, as was alluded to during the broadcast?
With the song?
I'm assuming they mean like the post game celebration, like with the fan, where you sing country roads at the end of the game after a win and celebrate with the fans.
I think that was back to when he was the coach here. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All
Yeah, and
right.
he's involved in a lot of that stuff too. That's one thing I've noticed from just people might wonder about this, like, oh, he's got so much going on. I've heard that he's involved in a lot of the marketing and branding stuff too. Like when he's in there at his meetings with his daughter, some other people are involved. I think his wife's in there a lot too, because those people kind of know what he thinks and what he wants, and they can say maybe what he can't articulate sometimes too. But that's not a new thing either. He's been involved in that before, and there's some other effects I'm sure that either he or they are involved in for game day experience or new traditions, whatever. But I'm pretty sure that went back to like the 06, 05 season.
Here you go. Officially um, credited according to the WVU Sports website. It began in 2002.
Two. Okay. So his second year.
But yeah, before the season when it came before the season. This is John Antonic's story on the WVU Sports website. Obviously things go bad. So then, sometime in 2002, right before the season, wanted to find a way to get the students and fans more involved in the young program. And so it says a photo taken after West Virginia's 56-7 season opening win over UT Chattanooga shows a disorganized attempt. But as they began to win more games, including a late stretch that featured win, it became more evolved in the form we know today. Players arm in arm, singing, swaying, etc. So 2002 is when we're crediting it, and it is Rich Rodriguez. Um,
Yeah.
Ear Traveler. Was there too much discussion and focus by the media and fans on the offense when in fact it may be the defense that carries this team to wins? Hey, I've already said it. I changed my win total because as the season approached, I was like, wait, defense might be good, might actually be good. There are dudes on this team. So I think it's habit when you say Rich Rodriguez. Like you don't say Rich Rodriguez and go, "Whoa, suffocating defense." Like even during his time at West Virginia, he had some pretty good defenses and some pretty good defensive players. But I think you just say his name and you think offense. But Mike, you were
Yeah.
pretty like both sides of that. Like you thought it was pretty, at least based off of what I've read of some of your stuff. Like offense and defense seem to
He,
be good or decent.
I think he's right, but it's also like you said, natural is rich. And what do you think about? Like you're not thinking of like Keelan Dykes and Mark Magro and Larry Williams and Scott Jerko. You're thinking Pat White, Noel Devine, Steve Slayton, Owen Schmidt, Darius Reynaud. You can go on and on and on. And that's nothing against the defensive side of things. You would probably think Jeff Castillo pretty quickly when you think about Rich Rodriguez's teams, though. I would say that. Um, but you knew more about the offense, or at least the identities of the players who were going to make it go. And that's probably why we floated more toward that. We don't really know the defensive coordinator. We know they have almost everybody that's new to the defense is involved in a position battle somewhere to be. So just to know where the pieces are going to land. And it's hard to pay attention to what you don't know, what you can't cling to. You're not rooting for anybody you don't know. You're rooting for Nico Marchio. You're rooting for Jaheim White. You're rooting for Jaden Bray. Um, you don't really know those guys on defense unless you're like big Edward Vesteranen fans and Hammond Russell fans, which may be why you felt so good about the defensive line going into the season. But yeah, that's a fair question. Like, did we not see this defense coming? I would probably feel better answering that question 2 Mondays from now than 2 days after they beat a really overmatched Northeast Conference team. But I think that the pieces are there. And, you can say, oh boy, they don't have Jamoy Robinson, or hey, they were really good to get Michael Coates, and they got Zach Alley. That's probably as big of an acquisition as they got. And he's got his guys figuring out who goes where.
Next question. I'm going to skip a couple of these. We're going to toss those into 3-minute videos. But what's the practice penalty going to be for all the turnovers? Law School Hill, stadium steps, gassers, or sit ups?
It's probably the same as the practice penalty for screwing up that first country roads after the Chattanooga game in 2002.
I,
That's my guess.
I was going to say, I think there might be more. I mean, the practice penalty for that is just going to be them getting the crap beat out of them with pads by GAs and assistant coaches and other players running through, like getting hit. But the real penalties involved with gassers and running around the field and going up Law School Hill, that's going to be for those off holding and the false start and everything else. So I think they might be more penalized for that, at least from the coaching staff.
Playing time too. Like we didn't see Singleton or Justin Smith Brown really do anything again after those fumbles. And those are good twitchy players who will make a difference if they get the ball, but they squander their opportunity, so they're not going to get the most to make. They're not going to get the make the most out of their Saturday. Grayson Barnes, different story. He kind of redeemed himself a little bit just by playing better and catching balls and running. The penalties in the offense. This is what was interesting to me. Didn't yank anybody, Chris.
Yeah.
So accountability comes in different ways. It may be in practice too, but sometimes like I remember a couple years ago, Aaron Harris got kicked out of a basketball game for like fighting somebody against Iowa State or something like that. Remember this?
Yep.
And people were like, "Oh, what's the penalty? Like, how many games is he suspended?" Well, he got kicked out of a game. That's the punishment. Sometimes, like, you lose your playing time, you can't play in the game. That's a big punishment. And then practice, you reform yourself, and you don't. Your punishment is in the game and not in practice. Those guys have already had some sort of penance. I don't know what'll happen in practice, but like, point was made. Like Smith Brown and Singleton didn't really get anything after that. They might have played a little bit. I don't remember that, but I also don't remember that because they didn't play a ton after that either.
Last two questions, which are really four, because Peanut Butter Cup slid three questions into one. I
Nope.
like this. But a couple of them may be pretty quick answers here. Because why didn't Dior Hubbard play? I think you reported, was he banged up heading into this game?
I'm assuming he is. I don't know.
Okay,
I
you were
mean,
assuming. Okay.
I was told he was their backup when camp broke, unless he just regressed or did something weird that I don't know about. But that's a question for Tuesday for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe he's healthy and he's getting carries after like who Tyler Jack Litch and guys like that. I don't think that's what happened, but we'll
Uh,
find out.
would Preston Fox have come out of retirement if Rich Rod was not the coach?
Uh, that's a quite a slap at Neil Brown there, isn't it? I I think he just didn't like. I just think he didn't like not playing football. I don't think he
Yeah.
cared where, but like he was. It sounded like me. He was in the whole private sector and was like, "This isn't very fun," and decided he was going to go back. Didn't tell anybody. Just showed up. Everybody's
Yeah.
happy to see him, but I don't think it was a Rich thing as much. As it was a Preston Fox thing, which is still pretty good.
And what is one change you would make to improve the offensive line?
Oh, I don't like personnel wise.
I don't know.
I
That's
don't
that's
have
how it's
one.
phrased. I mean, I think it's too early to tell because again, like, did anybody from the offensive line come in that second unit and just dominate and like maybe a little bit, but as someone pointed out on our board, those guys that cleared a path late in the game, the second string and third string offensive line, they are playing against second and third string FCS players, which are
Barely
like,
200 sometimes.
yeah, like I mean, we're talking guys that are worse than some Division two and Division three players. But so I wouldn't put too much credit into anybody clearing pass with that second and third string right now.
I
Last
can't think
one.
of a change there.
Oh,
Like,
sorry.
I mean, and even like for a technical aspect, oh, I'd pull more. I can't even say that. Or I'd run more zone. I don't know enough about that yet because I'm not making major changes based on what happened, good or bad, against an FCS team.
Yeah, and for the record, on my side of things, I'm not saying they did a good job on Saturday. I don't think it was particularly strong day for them for the offensive line as a whole, but it's hard to kind of say what the changes would be yet right now. Um, last question, and this one's right up your alley, Mike. This is like conspiracy, school involvement, tickets from WV 2323. The Pitt game is the first home game not available for purchase as part of a mini pack or single game since Oklahoma 2012. Can you explain where the remaining tickets went after 33,000 season tickets, 4 to 5,000 for visitors, and 12,000 for students? For the record, the math on that would be essentially 50,000. He's saying 50,000 are accounted for with season tickets, visitors, and students, leaving about 10,000 more tickets, right? Where did they go? Because you were not, according to him, allowed to purchase them for single game. or mini packs. So where are those other 10,000 tickets?
All right. They haven't. This is a good question because the math doesn't add up, does it?
Hmm.
This they usually give an allotment to the other team, and I want to say 5,000 is about the number.
Yeah, that's what he had in there because it was 33 for season tickets, five for visitors, and then
Okay,
12 for students.
so we're accounting for that. All right, well, players and staffers get players get two, I believe.
Yeah.
That's not going to even that puts a
Nah, I
small
mean, we're
dent.
talking like between staffers and students, that's still like 1,000
A
tickets we're
thousand,
counting on.
right?
That's
So
it.
yeah. Let me run this up a flagpole. I think it's a pretty good question to ask and to answer. Like, where does that go? Like, is there just some magic number there? Are they only having 50,000? They're saying it's 60,000. Um, are we counting Sodexo? I guess it's not Sodexo anymore, but are we counting uh the concessions and the security, the band, band parents? I don't know. That's a good question. I'll get back to you on that one because I think it's kind of something that we assume we know the answers to, but here we are trying to, and I cannot clearly enunciate an answer to that question.
What a ridiculously responsible answer, Michael. Like,
You want me to just make
where's
stuff up? Like they're lying, gambling
no,
debts. They're just getting these 10,000 tickets off their off their
yeah,
red numbers.
they had to give away 10,000 just to
Yeah.
get this game. Actually, this is secretly going to be a college game day, and they had to give 10,000 seats to ESPN executives to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's like, come on, you couldn't have done that. Couldn't have
Yeah.
said that. Ah,
Good
well,
question. I'll check this out because they'll probably end up having over 60,000 in that game too, which is another
yeah,
question. How do you do that, right?
yeah, I know
That's a good
how.
one.
All right. Well, Mike, I think that's it for the mailback again. We'll have some others in a written format that will go up. Honestly, I think I'm going to push that. We were still we're still tinkering with our schedule just because of how everything's changed. I might push my written mailbag to Wednesday morning. That way, I can get the answers from Rich Rodriguez to anything that we might not have answers to. It can even follow up on some of the questions that were asked here on the podcast that might get some clarity from the Rich Rodriguez press conference.
Yes.
We will also take a couple questions and throw them into 3-minute videos that will go up Tuesday morning, and Friday morning. So be prepared. Look out for those. But for now, that is everything that we're going to handle here on this podcast for the mailbag.
Three things I think, three things I know already out. Texan game day out. We'll have this, and then we get into Ohio U, and don't be alarmed. 3-point favorites on the road against the MAC opponent. Until next time, I am Mike Assassin.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.